A man in a bin costume just took on the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. And he beat him at his own game, not at the ballot box, but at the thing modern politics increasingly runs on: attention. This is the UK's real-world Waldo moment. At the 2024 general election, in the leafy, historically safe seat of Richmond and Northallerton, sitting Prime Minister Rishi Sunak found himself sharing a ballot paper with a self-described intergalactic space warrior with a literal dustbin for a head, running under the name Count Binface. The Count's manifesto, delivered with a completely straight face, included pledges like renaming Big Benface and turning Channel 5 into Channel 5G. He compared a contest to a heavyweight boxing bout, like Fury versus Usyk times a billion, a prime minister versus a man in bin armor, treated, at least in the coverage, as a genuinely comparable headline. If that premise sounds familiar, it should. It's almost beat for beat the setup of Charlie Brooker's 2013 Black Mirror episode, The Waldo Moment. In that story, a foul-mouthed, CGI cartoon bear called Waldo, created purely as entertainment, a joke act for a satirical panel show, gets roped into standing against a real political candidate in a by-election. What starts as a bit, a ratings stunt, a way to mock the establishment, spirals. Waldo's popularity outpaces the politicians he's supposed to be satirizing, not because voters agree with the bear's policies, he is none, but because he's honest about being fake in a system everyone already suspects is fake. Brooker's episode is less about the character and more about what his popularity reveals: an electorate so disillusioned with genuine candidates that a cartoon becomes a more trustworthy vessel for their frustration than any of the actual options on the ballot. Count Binface is that premise, but real and, crucially, much gentler in its consequences. Where Waldo curdles into something genuinely disturbing by the end of his episode, a symbol that gets weaponized and outlives anyone's control of it, Binface is a known quantity, a long-running character played by comedian John Harvey, who has stood in previous elections, including, memorably, against Theresa May's successor contest and other high-profile races, as a kind of institutional prankster. He's part of a very British tradition of joke candidates, running alongside the official monster raving loony party lineage, there to lampoon the process rather than capture it. Waldo was designed as satire and became a genuine threat to democratic norms. Binface is designed as satire and, so far, has stayed exactly that: a pressure valve, not a rupture. But the parallel holds where it matters most: the coverage. Sunak retained his seat, and life went on. That's simply what the results showed. What's more interesting, from a media literacy standpoint, is how much oxygen the bin-headed candidate pulled from the actual campaign. Outlets from the Washington Post to The Guardian ran pieces on Count Binface's Yorkshire adventure, quoting his pledges to nationalize Adele as a creative powerhouse and one-woman GDP boost, and to bring back CFAX, treating the joke campaign as a legitimate story running in parallel to substantive policy coverage of a sitting PM's re-election bid. That's not a criticism of any outlet. It's an observant fact about incentives. A man in a bin costume is inherently more visually interesting than a stump speech. He generates the clip, the quote, the headline, in a way that policy detail simply doesn't. And that's the real thread connecting the fiction to the reality. The Waldo moment wasn't really a warning about cartoons or costumes. It was a warning about what happens when spectacle becomes more efficient at capturing attention than substance, and what a public reaching for spectacle over substance says about how much trust is left in the substance itself. It's telling that Binface has since surfaced again as a challenger figure in other high-profile contests, including circling the by-election drama around Nigel Farage and Clacton, a race that itself sparked genuine political rows in Parliament over how seriously novelty candidacies should be taken. The character keeps finding real political moments to attach himself to because there's an appetite for him there. That's not a comment on any of the politicians involved. It's a comment on us, the audience, and what we reward with our attention. None of this is a verdict on Rishi Sunak, on Nigel Farage, or on any party. It's not even really a verdict on Count Binface, who by most accounts is in on his own joke and knows exactly what he is. It's an observation about the ecosystem all of them exist in, one where a straight-faced satire candidate can generate as much coverage as a prime minister's re-election campaign, and where that's treated as normal, even charming, rather than as the slightly unsettling sign Brooker meant it to be. Waldo is fiction's warning shot. Binface is the real world's punchline. The unsettling part is how thin the gap between the two has become. If you're into these real-world Black Mirror echoes, subscribe. This series digs into one every week. And I want to know what you think. Is a joke candidacy like this a healthy release valve for political disillusionment, or a symptom of something worse? Drop your take in the comments.